We are this week in Parashat Emor. Ben, is this a messianic parasha?
Totally, absolutely. This is like the blueprint for the entire Geulah right here, Leviticus 23. And this is basically rolling through all the festivals, everything from Pesach all the way to Yom Kippur to Sukkot. And this provides basically the best entry point for people that are new to this, new to Messianic Judaism or new to understanding Yeshua as the Jewish Mashiach.
Okay.
Start with the festivals.
Start with the festival. First of all, let's be accurate on the definition of the word. Those calling the text Moadim.
Moadim, right.
Give me your best definition of the word Moed. Let's define things clearly as we move forward.
Right. So this means appointed times. This is like Hashem's appointment book saying, I'm going to be here at this time at this place. And basically, we're invited to show up. And so Mikra Kodesh and the Moadim, this is the blueprint right here, Leviticus 23, Parashat.
So let me ask you a question. The word Moadim, right, is related to the word Ed, Edut.
Right.
Testimony, testifying. Right. They are called Arona Edut. If you are too big, because before we jump to the details, you're right. Leviticus Chapter 23 is such an important chapter. And it's going to give us the blueprint here. What is it that God wants us to testify about? Maybe we need to ask the question, okay, you're giving us all those appointed time, the morning. What is the big picture? What is the testimony that God wants us to carry about him? How would you describe that? What would you say it is?
Well, for me, it's all about Mashiach. Because when you look at what Yeshua did on Pesach, and we're in the process right now of Sefirat Omer, the counting of the Omer. It is during this time that Yeshua appeared for 40 days to all of his disciples. And then on Shavuot, we read in Acts chapter 2, the Ruach HaKodesh is given. People are speaking in different languages. And this is exactly what the Midrash says, what God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai. And so this fulfillment is all connected to Mashiach, it's connected to Geulah, to redemption. And so this is like the roadmap for us to train.
We have a roadmap for Geulah. If you have your Tanachim, run and get your Bible. We are going to get into the text, both in English and both in Hebrew. Right. We are going to be right there in the heart of the text. I think we decided, Ben, that we're going to focus today on Leviticus chapter 23,
right,
15 and 16.
Right.
How appropriate it is for us to talk about those two verses while we are counting the Omer today.
Right, totally. And so in the passage here,
let's read those verses first in English. Do you have English in front of you? It will be appropriate for us to read them.
Right. And so in English it says, you shall count for yourselves from the day after the Shabbat, from the day when you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, there to be 7 complete Sabbaths. You shall count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall present a new grain offering to Hashem.
So, first thing first, why is it say here, there's a lot of trigger words in this text. V'safartem lachem. This is something that we don't pay attention to.
Right.
Because God says, well, count. Just count for me, I've given you a mitzvah, do it. But it's added the Hebrew word lachem. Talk to me about this. This is something pretty significant. No,
this is totally significant. So Rabbi Shraga Simmons from Aish.com, he says the Torah, in describing the Omer, it says, Usafartam lachem, you shall count for yourselves, because each person has to do this for himself, speaking it aloud. So it is critical for us to really embrace this mitzvah. That word lachem, and you shall count it. There is some kind of process happening between Pesach and Shavuot that we are to count. And what is the meaning of this count is what we're going to be talking about.
So look, lachem, if you say in Hebrew lachem, it's something very individual.
Right.
It's something very, very, if it says usafartem lanu, it means counted. Some person stand up And you say, day one. And then the next day, the person said, day two. Right? But that's not what lachem is. Lachem is something very, very personal, Ben.
That's right. And so the Torah is basically pointing the finger at you. You are to count. And so that's very important because it just doesn't say just count the Omer. It doesn't say that. It says count for yourselves. And so there is some type of process of growth, of ascending that's happening during Sefirat Omer.
Okay. Continue this thought, Ben. Talk to us. This is very interesting.
Okay. So we have 50 days between the time of when we count when we wave the first fruit sheaf offering all the way to Shavuot. Now, what's interesting is this is 50 days. So what is 50? And we're going to talk about this today. But it's 7 times 7, which is 49 plus 1.
Plus
right?
1.
So what is this pattern? And matter of fact, we're going to look in the Torah and we're going to discover the pattern of the Yeovil, which is the Jubilee year, which is 7 times 7 years plus 1 year. What is this plus 1? And we're going to talk about that. But why is this important on a very practical level for us?
Okay. I look at it in a very different way, though.
Mm-hmm.
He says count, right? What is the Torah says here? Look, it says very clearly, it says, v'tisperu 50 yom. But then it says, Sheva Shabbatot Tmimot. And this is very, very interesting also to me. Why does it put the word tamim? Why is the word tamim? Tamim.
Right. Tam meaning complete or.
But think about this. If you count 7 times 7, it's 49.
Right.
But it says 50. So there is something very, very strange about this.
Right. And so that is very strange. And so we're going to look at that just a minute because this belongs to the realm of what is called the realm of the eighth. Okay. So first, let me tell you what the waving represents. Okay. So this is Rabbi,
supernatural.
It's supernatural. So this is Rabbi Abba Wagensberg from H.com. Listen to what he says. He says, waving represents shaking off. In this case, shaking off layers of self-centered physicality and materialism in order to elevate our existence. We see a hint of this idea in the Parashat, which mentions waving 7 times. We could suggest that these 7 mentions of waving correspond to the 7 weeks between Passover and Shavuot. Each week we have the ability to shake off another layer. What are these layers exactly? All the physical aspects of this world were initially created in 7 days. Each week of the Omer period thus shakes off one of these layers of creation. As we progressively refine and elevate ourselves, we prepare to receive the Torah on Shavuot.
And
it's a process of refinement.
And that will explain why it says lachem.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody needs to understand what is being said. Let me try to put it in another twist to what you say. Okay? Here's the thing. The Geulah, when we talk about the process of the Geulah took 1 day. It is the 15th day of Nisan. Okay, that's it. Tetvav of Nisan. They are out. Now listen to this, Ben. I don't know if you connected the dot to this, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder in any way, shape, or form. But in the book of Micha, he says, chapter 7, verse 15, Keyemei tze'etcha me'eretz Mitzrayim ar'enu niflaot. Which means, just as the day you left at Egypt, I will show you the nifla, the miracles, the wonders in the future. So everybody needs to understand that those 50 days is a prototype.
Yeah.
For Geulah.
That's exactly right. It is a prototype for Geulah. And so what you will see in the Torah is basically what's called a fractal. So it's like a repeating pattern on different scales that leads up to the ultimate redemption.
Yes.
So listen to this. This is Leviticus 25. Listen to the parallels here. Matter of fact,
Leviticus 25, which verse is it?
Verse 8.
25:8. Okay, go ahead.
And so what you can do is align this text against our text in Leviticus 23 and look at the parallels here.
Okay.
So it says, you shall count off 7 Sabbaths of years, 7 times 7 years, and they shall be to you the days of 7 Sabbaths of years, even 49 years. Then you shall sound the loud shofar on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of Yom Kippur. You shall sound the shofar throughout the land. You shall make the 50th year holy and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all of its inhabitants. It shall be a Yeovil to you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. So far, we haven't really gotten into the meaning of this, other than to say there is a connection between Sefirat HaOmer and the counting of the Yeovil. So you see this exact pattern of this 49 plus 1 on the days between Pesach and Shavuot, and then on a larger scale between the 7 Shmitot. So you have 7 Shmitot, which is a Shemitah is a 7-year cycle, 7 times 7 plus 1. And we're going to get into this and really reveal what is the connection and the secret between these two passages.
Okay, so very interesting. You call it what do you call it? Fractal?
Fractal. And so this is a mathematical...
it's very, very interesting you're using this term, but I think this is exactly what we're seeing here.
Right.
Everybody need to understand that I call it a prototype. Okay?
Yeah, that's right.
But that's really what you're talking about.
Right.
The Geulah that we're reading here about, right? You remember Shlomo HaMelech says, Ma she'aya yiyeh. Prophecy. The Geulah is actually not linear. Right.
It's cyclical. Exactly right.
And I like what Rabbi Kook says, the very first chief rabbi of the Ashkenazim. He says that when you look at Geulah, don't even look at it as a cyclical. He says, look at that as a continuous.
Right.
So you go through one Geulah, and then you turn the page, and you get to the next Geulah.
Right.
And he explained that the Geulah is like a snowball.
Yeah, that's a great point, because there's this. It's like this. A DNA strand goes like this. Okay, it's like the shape of a shofar, and so every year we're going through this cycle, and we think we're going. Okay, here's Passover again. Here's
people say, been there, done that.
Right, and it's not because you're going up, and so it's very much like it's called a helicoidal shape here. It's like a DNA strand ascending upwards towards Mount Sinai.
The question is, do we really ascending? Or that's the $1 million question to me.
Right.
But I wanted to think about this for a second. The reason I asked this question is, look, the children of Israel here in Leviticus 23, right? Mm-hmm. They are living, they're in the wilderness, they're receiving the very first mitzvah that they receive upon leaving Egypt. Is count the Omer. Nothing else. The very first thing, count the Omer, day one, immediately, right? Now, listen, there is something very interesting on the Midrash to strengthen with what the point we are talking about. Think about it, Ben. It says in Micah again, it says that, talking about the final Geulah, it says, as you live. Now, if we left Egypt in one day, Ben, how come it uses the word KMA? KMA, it's a plural. It's a plural. It's a plural.
Right.
Chazal says it is as of the days.
Right.
The problem here. If we left Egypt in one day, I'm no longer in Egypt.
Right. And so that leads us to a question: is when is Israel truly free? Was it when they left?
That is the question.
Right.
And that is the question of the counting of the Omer, is because if I understand it right, we leave Mitzrayim,
Right.
Okay, we left Mitzrayim, but we're still in the city limit of Mitzrayim. So we are still in the sovereignty of Mitzrayim, and we're still in the sovereignty. We are further from the capital.
Right.
We are still in Egypt in some ways. And the more we do what we need to do, the further we get from the core.
That's right. And so and the externality, we're leaving Egypt, but also on the internality, which is all about the Sefirat, the Omer, going through the Midot, counting the different Sfarot, and going through this. So I know this sounds like very complex, but it's about to be like very practical.
But you know what, Ben? It's actually very simple to me,
Yes.
because there's in the Tanya, it says that the Geulah coming, it's called, the Lashon is tipin tipin. What does it mean, tipin tipin? From the word tiftuf, like a faucet that drip, drop, drip, drop. That's the way the Geulah works.
Right, in a process, yeah.
Yeah, so really in a process of a dropping faucet.
Right.
And you are equating it to the day 1 and to the day 2 and to the day 3,
Right.
but also to the Yeovil. And I get it. The question I have for you: what do we need to do to go, instead of drop, 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 to go 2 drops, 2 drops, 2 drops? What can we do to speed up the process? That's
Right.
the whole question.
Well, the one thing you could do is counting. So we're not counting down to the Geulah, we're counting up. And so we're counting one level up. And so when you started the counting, it's really a process of self-introspection. When we're really looking, how can we speed up the Geulah? Well, first of all, we have to start right here. It has to start with us in our own homes. It's got to start with our own hearts and in our own internality. And then that should manifest out to mitzvot. We need to be doing the work of the kingdom and speeding up the Geulah by action.
Listen, Ben, we just count the Omer. I don't know where you live, but where I'm at, sun is down. I think there's something very important to talk about. You don't count the Omer in the daytime.
Right.
Count it in the Laila.
Wow, that's very...
Laila is a picture of the Geulah, of the exile.
Right. That is correct.
That Am Yisrael left it the night. They didn't lift it the day. And people have this notion, Ben, that Mashiach is going to come and he's going to fix everything. That's a mistake. Right. He's coming to some sort of a rectified world, and he just complete the rectification. I also think, about Nehemiah, on Nehemiah chapter 2, when you go to fix the wall of Yerushalayim, when you have the Mem Ptucha.
Yes, yes.
And you know what it says? People don't read it. They don't think about this. But it says he went through Ain Atanin. Ain Atanin. Look at the language. The eye of a Satan. Ain Atanin. Veshar Ashpatot. The garbage. You have to go to the Tanin, Hasatan, and you have to go to garbage to be able to do the tikkun. And people want shortcuts, Ben.
That's true. And so that shows us something else about shortcuts. Hashem created the whole world in 6 days, okay? And so Hashem could have just snapped his fingers and made the whole thing in 1 day. But that shows that our God is the God of process. And so everybody wants to be on day 6 of their own personal maturity and skip days 5, 4, 3, and 2. And so that's what this whole process of counting is us preparing ourselves to receive real freedom. Real freedom is not simply coming out of Egypt. Real freedom is receiving the Torah. So listen to this really quick. This is coming from Pirkei Avot. It says, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, and the tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the right of God engraven upon the tablets. The word engraven is charut. And they say, read not charut, read cherut, for you will find no free man except him who is occupied in the learning of the Torah.
Let me explain what it says. There is actually what appears as a misspell in the Hebrew language, which is not. When he went up to the mountain, Moshe Rabbeinu, to bring the tablets, he says he engraved.
Right.
Now, the engraved, which is a physical labor,
right,
is actually spelled with a taf, which make it freedom.
Right.
Interesting. How can the work of the flesh, the work, how can they bring freedom? And you're telling me that the work is what makes it go from 1 to 2 to 3. How is that fitting with the New Testament?
So would you believe that the New Testament quotes this in the book of James? He says, anybody that looks in the perfect Torah of freedom, Torah Hahirut is it's using the exact same words as Pirkei Avot, Torah Hahirut. And so it's there in the New Testament using the exact same principle that sages brought down in Pirkei Avot.
So what does it mean in practicality? We have a lot of people watching us right now.
Right.
They want to walk here's what I'm hearing. I'm kind of decoding you because I'm following very much the shiur. You are saying that it is actually the Torah and the mitzvot that make you walk to the next dargah. And although you go through things in the cyclicality, in a level of cyclicality, you're really not. It might appear to you that you do the same things, but you are doing it in a higher madrega. You're doing it in a higher level. That's really what you're saying. And it would come when you go, as it says in Shir HaShirim, from one mountain to a higher mountain.
Right.
Question to you, how do you know that it's really Torah Tacherut? How do you know that you are in the higher madrega? Using the DNA example. How does one know that, hey, I was here, but now I'm here, and next day I'm here? That's $1 million question, Ben.
That's right. And so it really shows, and it's based in fruit. And so, like, we look at our families, we look at people around us. How are we reacting if we're always, Torah is much more than simply, okay, I don't eat pork. It's much greater than that. It's like, who am I patient with? Who am I loving? Am I showing mesirat nefesh? Am I giving my life for the kingdom of Hashem? And so it's much greater than simply not doing this. It's what we're doing in the positive. And so ultimately love our neighbor as ourselves, but all of that manifests through us observing the Torah, observing Shabbat, observing all of these things but we have it with the right connection and the right purpose for us to be closer to Hashem and to really pass that down to the next generation and really making mitzvot in the world. So this is the most important part, is that.
But one can fulfill mitzvot and still be very far from Hashem. I say it all the time.
Absolutely. Nachmanides brings that down. He says that somebody can observe the entire Torah and still be a scoundrel. And so that's something, it's got to be the internality and the externality. It's not one without the other.
See what I think is going on. This is just me. Last week, Parashat was Parashat Kedoshim.
Right.
In
Yes.
Parashat Kedoshim, think about it. They are counting, right? 1, 2, 3. Now, when you count, and you count towards something, if Israel is here and Hashem is here, then make it one step closer and one step closer. You're getting closer, right?
Right.
Now, what is this word to get closer to something? Korban. Now, where do we get the word korban from?
That is right.
Meant to come closer, Ben.
Right.
Okay? So he said that the only way to come closer is by kedusha.
Yes.
In essence, you cannot count up, Ben. There's no way to count up if you don't live a life of kedusha.
That's right.
So with that being said, Ben, in 2 Peter, I'm thinking about this. What did he say? He said, since everything is going to be destroyed, what kind of people should you be? You should live holy and godly life as you wait for the day that God and work to hasten His coming. He said work and hastening. And that's kind of pointing to what you're talking about.
That's exactly it. And so without holiness, we cannot see Hashem. And so, but this is a key point, is that every single day throughout the Omer, we're looking at something that's holding us back. What is holding each one of us back? So none of us are perfect. All of us have to shake off something that is holding us back, like chains that are restricting us from fulfilling our true purpose that Hashem has called us to be.
Are you saying you have a 49 klipot?
Yes, essentially, yes. And so we have to break through these things that are layers. These are very much like klipot that are holding us back. And that's what this process is as we prepare to receive the Torah on Mount Sinai, which is the ultimate picture of redemption and Hashem coming down. And listen to this. This is Kli Yakar, okay? It says, the number 7 represents the cycle of creation. The number 8 represents the circumference, that which lies beyond the perimeter of time and space. This is why the divine presence came to dwell in the Israelite camp on the 8th day. This is also alluded to in the saying of our sages, the harp of the Mashiach has 8 strings. It has 8 strings, but this sounds very, very nebulous. Like, what does this mean? It means that Messiah is beyond time and space. So time is represented by the number 7.
Yes.
So 7 is the natural cycle of time, but Mashiach is resurrected. He's above time and beyond time. And so this is the level of like a tik. This is the level of beyond time and space, which tells us one thing. What does that mean practically? Is that Hashem has allowed us to have access to the power from his holiness to reach different madrugot of kedusha, of different levels of holiness, that we can ascend and we can break beyond the physical layer. This is why Mashiach is over the waters, why he's over the physicality.
So people need to, the Sphira is the Avodah. The Sphira is the Avodah. You being in one level today and you being in another level tomorrow, that's the Avodah in essence. That's what we're saying here.
Yes, and there is no plateau. There is no like, okay, finally I've arrived in my walk with Mashiach, my walk with Hashem. I've arrived. Now I can relax. There's no relaxation. We just keep going to level until we reach that level of kedusha that Hashem is.
So talk to me about this. Here's I think an important concept. So Ben, each one of us clearly going in a different level of speed.
Right.
In shedding the klipot. One person can reach it faster. How does one avodah, one sphira, affect another sphira? Is there any connection between the sphirot? I think this is something very important to discuss.
That's a very deep question, very huge question, and I'll just say that when we accomplish a certain level, we're only the beginning of the next, and so I think it's for us, during this process of introspection, preparing ourselves. This is one thing when Hashem gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, it said that all Israel was of one heart, one man at the foot of the mountain. So it's not simply enough for us to simply our own self be isolated from the rest of the community, ascending one level at a time. It must be in connection with other people, bringing everyone up. And so this was the Parsha last week, Kedoshim, that it says, speak to Kol Adat B'nai Israel, speak to all the congregation of Israel, because nobody's allowed to be a holy hermit by themselves. You have to be connected to the larger community. And when you do that, then you're really ascending different levels.
In the English language, you say, and you shall, it says, and it shall become unto you. That's the way the English is being read. But the word you here, we cannot neglect the holy tongue, is a corporal you.
Yes, right.
I would like to present it in another way, Ben. Sure. There's a bucket. We currently call it the bucket of Sfirot. Mm-hmm. Okay? And Chazal says that tipin go to this basket of Sfirot. There is the little faucet called the Ben faucet. There's the little faucet, the same Bernstein faucet. Okay? Bernstein doesn't need a faucet. You have two faucets, okay? But there is a faucet, but at the end of the day, there's a certain pressure that can come from your faucet and my faucet. Right. And finite. You can advance and advance and advance, right, but X pressure, right? Now, you need the pressure from the other faucet to come to fill the bucket, because the faucet represent the total Geulah. When the bucket is complete, is the ultimate, what I call the complete Geulah.
Right.
Geulah. So really we need to understand lachem means that we need each other. When you're succeeding in your ministry, Ben, what is going to mean a successful to our ministry?
Right.
And I see the way the Messianic movement even operate. It's so competitive. There's so much cutthroat, but it's really not like that. The body have a neural network where we should be operating in wholeness.
That's how we have to be, and oftentimes I think we miss the bigger picture, the kingdom vision, where we're focusing on little silos and separate cells, when in truth everyone is one body. So listen to this here just for a second. speaking about this level of 7 times 7 plus 1, what does this mean? What they say, what the sages teach, is that this is the level of the 8, the level of a new beginning. So listen to this. This is from Chabad, and it says, if the number 7 defines natural reality, 8 represents that which is higher than nature. In contrast, 8 represents the introduction of a reality that is beyond all nature and definition, including the definition transcendence. The 8th dimension, if we can call it a dimension, has no limitations at all. It transcends and pervades, being beyond nature and yet also fully present within it, equally beyond matter and spirit and equally within them. The messianic 7th millennium of history will be followed by the ultimate 8, the supra-historical Olam Haba, world to come. So what does all that mean? I know that was a lot of language, but the world is divided like this.
It's when you haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, exactly. We live in the Olam Hazeh, and then when Mashiach returns, we live in the Messianic era. Okay, Yemot Mashiach. And so after that, the Messianic era really is only a stepping stone to the Olam Haba.
By the way, do you know that's the reason that he's first going to have a violin of 8, and then he's going to have a violin of 10.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Olam Haba.
That's exactly right. That comes from the Psalms, and that's the commentary of the sages, the 10-string harpist from the Olam Haba. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's crazy. This is where it's really wild, is that when Yeshua is resurrected, okay, and what is described in the Gospels, when he's walking through walls and yet they're touching him physically, and he's appearing in the midst of locked doors. I've read a lot of science books, okay? So there's a guy named Dr. Michio Kaku, who is explaining something called string theory, that science is leading to the concept that there are not 3 dimensions, length, width, height, plus time, which is 4 dimensions, but there are 10 dimensions, okay? So this goes back to that 10-string harp. But I want you to listen to this, okay? This is where it's really wild. So we just now read Chabad saying that this level of the 8, you're within time, but you're also beyond it. So listen to this. So here is John chapter 20, verse 19.
John 20:19. Let's go there. Okay.
For sure. It says, when it was evening on that day, the first day of the week, and when the doors were locked, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Judeans, Yeshua came and stood in the midst of them and said, Shalom Aleichem, peace be to you. And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. And the disciples therefore were glad when they saw the Lord. Yeshua therefore said to them, Shalom Aleichem, peace be to you. As the Father has sent me, even so I send you. So let's just stop and analyze this. So it's at the first day of the week. The book of John wants us to know this. So what is this day? That means that the cycle of 7 has been completed, and now we're on this 8th level, okay? So Yeshua appears, they've locked the doors, and Yeshua appears in the midst of them and says, Shalom Aleichem. So what is going on here? So listen to what Michio Kaku, who's not commenting on this. I read this in a book called Hyperspace. I'm going to read you this passage, okay? Now, hold on to your hat and buckle your seatbelt, all right? So he is talking about this idea of higher dimensions, which science is coming to understand this through string theory. Okay, they say there's 10 dimensions. And what's shocking is Dr. Kaku says that this seems to be spoken about in the Zohar. All right, this guy is a popular scientist who apparently has read parts of the Zohar, and he says that this seems to be in the Zohar. Now, it is in the Zohar, but where did the Zohar get it? It gets it from the Torah. All right, all of this is concealed in the Torah. But listen to what Dr. Kaku says in his book, Hyperspace. He's talking about what would it be like.
Ben for a moment.
What would it be like?
Interesting. I wanted to hear where it is. I think Ben, we lost his camera, and I hope Ben did not experience the 8th dimension. Maybe somebody should text Ben and tell Ben, we lost you on the 8th dimension. Ben, if you're watching me, come back to the show. Ben?
Am I here?
Oh, Ben, I was just making the joke that you went to the 8th dimension.
I did. I teleported.
Was that your way to introduce us to the 8th dimension?
I teleported somewhere. Okay.
Continue.
All right. I don't know what happened. I just went to the 8th dimension. But listen to this. So Dr. Kaku, I don't know if I cut off, but Dr. Kaku says that this is in the Zohar. Now listen to this. All right. So this is from his book, and he's not commenting on the Gospels. Listen to what he says. If somebody were from a higher dimension, look what he would say. He says, imagine being able to walk through walls. You wouldn't bother with opening doors. You could pass right through them. Imagine being able to disappear or reappear at will. Instead of driving to school or work, you would simply vanish and rematerialize in your classroom or office. You'd be hailed as a master surgeon with the ability to repair internal organs of patients without ever cutting the skin. No secrets could be kept from us. No treasures could be hidden from us. No obstructions could stop us. We would truly be miracle workers, performing feats beyond the comprehension of mortals. We would also be omnipotent. Who could possess such a godlike power? The answer, a being from a higher dimensional world. Now, why do I bring this up? Because number one, he's not commenting on the Gospels. This is science. And everything that the Jewish sages have already told us is mirrored completely in science. So this is something I feel very strongly with, that people need to understand. When you understand the Torah from the Jewish perspective, there is no conflict with science whatsoever. And so Nachmanides, he's talking about the universe starting at the size of a mustard seed. He says, in Hebrew, kin kuda katana, like a small dot, the universe began when God created it. Science didn't discover that till 800 years later. There was a guy named the Rabbi Levi ben Gershom. He was the only ancient medieval astronomer to accurately calculate stellar distances. So science is completely in line with the Torah. Now listen to this. So Yeshua seems to be on this 8th level. Okay, he's in this level that he can be right there, and you can touch his hands and his side, and at the same time he can appear and reappear at will, walk through walls. And this is what's the most important part. Yeshua has allowed us to have a taste of the kingdom now. And so we don't have to wait for a resurrected body, and we don't have to wait for the Olam Haba or the Messianic era to bring the kingdom now. And so this is what the whole count of Sefirat HaOmer is that every single one of us, whether it's a very small step or a large step, as we look introspectively, we can start ascending these levels and break off the things that seemingly hold us back when we say to our minds, it's impossible, I can't do it. Yeshua can walk through walls, and if he can walk through walls and he's given us his spirit, then we can break off the things that are holding us back, like addiction, like bad language or bad behavior or emotional instability or whatever it is that people are going through in their own lives, struggling in their walk. Hashem has allowed us through his Torah, as we begin to practice this, to break these chains off, to break out of these klipot. And that's what this process is, of ascending and refining and preparing to receive the Torah.
It's interesting because what you're proposing is that we really need to learn how to walk more in the power of God.
Yes.
But there's no shortcuts.
That's correct.
You have to do the Avodah. There is a Untitled Shabbat, it says, I love it. It says, Mi shelo toreach be'erev Shabbat lo ochel b'Shabbat. One who does not labor to prepare the Sabbath table does not dine on the Shabbat on the Shabbat meal. And that's in essence what you're telling me. If you can reach the 8th level today through Mashiach.
Right.
And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu meant when he says the Torah is not over the heavens. It's not over the seas. I think about this. It's not over the heaven because Mashiach brought it down to us.
Right.
He brought it down so you can have the 8th now. You don't have to ascend to heaven. Mashiach brought it down for you. Okay? But you still have to do the Torah.
That's correct. There are no shortcuts. You can't go from day 1 in creation to day 6 and day 7. You can't go from Sefirat the 25th day of the Omer straight to the 50. You must go through this process.
So Ben, I'm coming back because you keep on going back to creation. So
right.
You know what I was thinking about it is you're talking about the creation. You know, when we do the Kiddush, what do we say in the Kiddush? Vayehi erev, vayehi boker.
Right.
This is important because the Laila, the Geulah, think about it. You take the word the Geulah. when you add the Aleph, you get Geulah.
Yes, that's right.
So the Aleph, Alufo Shel Olam, the champion of the world, is what you need to sense to the next level. But the Geulah does not start when you're like, level 48, 49. This is the humanistic way to view it.
Right.
When we don't have the chazon, when we don't have the vision. And it's interesting, it says in, I always think about this example that I like to give the people. The Yalkut Shimoni, I was just reading it behind me, I have the Yalkut. It says that the Israelites going through Bamidbar, and they have 600,000 people going. The line is 3 days, man. The line is actually 3 days from where the ark is to where the people is. And they said that, the Yalkut, it says that actually lasers coming out of the it's literally said like laser beams.
Yes, I've read this.
And it is killing. It's an interesting language. The serpents,
right,
and the akravim, the
scorpions.
What did Yeshua tell us? You will be able to trample on serpents and snakes.
Right.
But the problem was they don't see it. They didn't see it, so someone will stray away. And some people need to understand whether it's level 2 or level 5 or level 47 or 48. Right. The Geulah is never too far from you. The Geulah is never too far because Geulah is the next level.
That's it. And so if we view, that's exactly right. So if we view the Sefirat Omer as like it's a ladder, okay? Sometimes, and this is very important for people to realize, sometimes progress is 1 step forward, 2 steps back. The key, and I want to tell you, there was a story of this rabbi, and he says there are 2 people on the ladder. There's one at the top and one at the bottom. And he asked his students, who is closer to God?
The bottom, no doubt.
Well, he asked all the students, and everybody said, well, the guy at the top is the closest to God. It's obvious.
Start from the bottom. That's a big rule in Judaism.
Exactly.
From the bottom up, not from the top down. No way.
Correct. And this is what the rabbi said. He says, Aha, didn't tell you which direction they were going. Exactly. And so absolutely this whole process, now I want everybody to listen to this. So if you're feeling discouraged out there for whatever reason, I want you to hear what Proverbs 24 says. This is Proverbs 24:16. Okay? It says, a tzaddik, a righteous person, falls 7 times and he gets up again.
I just gave it last week in the Midrash.
Oh, awesome.
It's about how he gets up.
Yes. And so if he falls 7 times, he gets up the 8th. You see this? So 7 times is like the ultimate fall, and yet he still gets up. This is the difference, because when we have a picture of a tzaddik, we think of a holy person. We think of somebody.
It's a mistake.
Right.
A tzaddik have to deal with how do you take the punch.
Yes.
Do you fall? Do you get up? Are you like Rocky?
Exactly. I love Rocky. This is the perfect example. Rocky's is a super tzaddik. So in this case, we have to have that spiritual connection here, because when he gets up to 8th, that's the level of beyond time. That's the level of a new beginning, of being born again. So I want to read one thing. This is from Rebbe Nachman, okay? Rebbe Nachman says this. He says something incredible. And so here it is. All right, he says, in reality, there is no such thing as time. Time is only an illusion. Now, Rebbe Nachman said this like 100 years before Albert Einstein said the exact same thing. He says, our notions of time are pure illusion. Somebody who thinks about this carefully will certainly put all of his strength into abandoning the vanities of this time-bound existence and putting all of his hope in that which is beyond time. Now watch this. You should have faith in the one who is beyond time. Then nothing can throw you down. Wherever you are, you will always be able to remind yourself, this day I have given birth to you. These words refer to Mashiach. Psalm 2. Rebbe Nachman says, these words refer to Mashiach, who is in a realm beyond time.
Because you know what Hayom means from eternity.
Yes.
Hayom means from eternity.
Right. And Rebbe Nachman, he says, there, in this realm beyond time, everything finds healing. Time past is annulled completely. There is only today. Today you were born, literally. He says, the only hope is in the realm beyond time. From there comes all healing. It will be, and this is Rebbe Nachman saying this, it will be as if you were born again today. So long as you have faith in God, in the world to come, and in the Messiah who is beyond time, you have eternal hope.
So, it's time heals everything, but time is not that relevant as much as you think it is.
Yeah.
I think about this, Vaikare Shmo Pele Yoetzel Gibor Avia, such the 8 names of the Mashiach,
right?
Or the 8 garments of the high priest.
Yes.
So in Exodus 15, Chazal make this point on the Song of Moses that start with the word Az. Az is 7 plus 1. Az is 7 plus 1, which equal 8.
Right.
And that's when the supernatural, that's when God parted the sea. Az Yashir Moshe. 8. So we see this concept. But here's the thing that drag me. So listen, people ask the question, where grace coming? So, I actually see in Jewish history, like this parting of the Red Sea, although Israel was not corporately in level 8, not even close, their count, but God for a split second brought down those flashes of those moments. And that's to me where grace comes. It's Israel maybe moving towards us, as God said, hey, I'm going to give you a little booster. And this booster has a name, it's the Ruach HaKodesh. Yes. Everybody understands, Ruach HaKodesh is not going to fight for you, and it's not going to win for you. You still have to do this. But it's like your little vitamin drink that you can take that give you this extra sprint to be able to complete the task. And that's something that Yeshua left us. He left us with the Ruach HaKodesh so that we will be able to fulfill all things through him. We can get to this level.
Right. And that's totally it. So this whole process is not simply this process of Sefirat Omer is not simply a simple count. It's a count up to Mount Sinai. It's a count up to the Geulah. It is a process of refining, of breaking off these things, these klipot, these chains that are holding us back, and receiving what is true freedom, which is upon the tablets, is cherut, the freedom that Hashem wants to write in our hearts. That's Jeremiah, and that's the whole purpose of where His Torah is written upon our hearts, and then we can live in obedience to the Torah, but in a way that it's just like flowing through us, and it's no longer just us and our own efforts here. It is our efforts combined with Hashem, but it's that where the Spirit comes.
Here you go. Give our viewers three things that you wanted to take with them right now as they are ascending up to the completion of the 7th so that they can ultimately get to the 8th. Give 3 things that they can take with them.
Right. So between this process, these are the 3 things: Passover, the Omer, and Shavuot. Passover, you must accept Mashiach as your Savior. You must accept him as your master. This is the King Messiah. This is everything. This is where the process begins of coming out of Egypt. Connecting these 2 passages of counting the Omer. It is not enough for people just to be born again and stay babies. They have to grow in their walk. They have to continue to ascend upwards and put in the effort and partner with Hashem in creation and partner with Hashem in the Geulah and hastening his return. And so that leads us up to this level of the 8th, which is the level of resurrection. It's the level of Mashiach, the level of Yeshua, that we can bring freedom to the world. There are so many people today that are in chains. The world is hurting. It is broken. And the Torah gives us the antidote. But the gospel, the people coming to Yeshua is where people can really embrace this, and he could really set us on that path of ascending the ladder to Mount Sinai, to receiving real freedom, breaking off the things holding us back.
Okay, very good, Ben. I'm going to give only one practical way to ascend. A chidush, something that you didn't probably think about. What God commanded them to do? Lispor, to count up. Think about the word lispor, Ben. The word lispor means to tell. Lesaper, lispor. Lesaper is to tell a story.
Wow.
Now think about it. Parashat Yitro, where the Torah was given, is not called Aseret HaDibrot. It's called Yitro after Midianite Kohen.
Right.
Think about what's happening there in the text. In verse 10, 8, it says, ויספר משה לחותנו את כל אשר אדוני לפרעה ולמצרים על אודות ישראל. He told him everything. He told him everything that God has done. Well, in verse 1, he said he already heard everything that God has done.
Right.
But here is just לספר. He enabled the sphere of somebody else. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? To ascend personally, help somebody else to ascend, and through the ascension of somebody else, you will become ascending. That is the trick for this entire thing. The next verse, he says, in verse 10, ויאמר יתרו, and Yitro says, ברוך אדוני אשר הציל אתכם מיד מצרים ומיד פרעה. Blessed thou be. And now I know, ki gadol Adonai. Now I know that the Lord is great. He, Moshe Rabbeinu, who is a figure of Mashiach, helped the ascension of Yitro. If you want truly to ascend today, don't look inside yourself. Honestly, that is what the Satan wants more than anything else. To keep us inside, to keep us bottled, to keep us focused on our own things. But no, if you want to really see ascension on your own self, help somebody else ascension. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord. Let us. That means, Brian, if somebody stumble, don't do what they do in the churches. Oh, I'm going to keep you in the prayer. Oh, I'm going to... No, do something. Do a mitzvah to bring somebody else up. Ascension does not start with you. Ascension starts when you ascend and I see you ascend and I support the ascension. You know who's benefiting? I am benefiting with that just as much. And you know, Ben, I was thinking about this. In the Midrash, it says about Avraham Avinu, as you're well aware, when the Malachim come, 3 days after his Brit Milah, he's hurting, and he's running to bring them. And what the Midrash says, it says that the Shemesh Tzaka, the Son of Righteousness, come with healing in his wing. Who is the one who is being ascended here? Not the Malachim. Abraham is receiving the benefit. Abraham is the one who receiving the blessing. So I would say it's simply like this. Don't be selfish. Don't look at just upon your own personal ascension. Look at opportunity to help other ascend. And as you help other ascend, that will lead to your own ascension. What do you say? You want to add the last word on that, Ben?
I think that that's the ultimate essence of it, is that from last week's Parashat to this week's Parashat, the connection is that we cannot ascend by ourselves. We have to do it everyone together, and that is the ultimate key.
That's it. Ben, this has been a very inspirational shiur, and I think we really internalize some of those things. This is not just theology. I see that the people really enjoy it. Chaverim, if you enjoy it, first of all, check out Ben Burton. It's a ministry I wholeheartedly support. It's called The Letter of Jacob. It's a website that Ben has with a lot of wonderful shiurim, and we are really a big supporters of that. And also, at the same time, if you're anywhere in the Texas area, I think they will would love to have you in Keilat Bet Derech. So if you're interested, just check them out. They're tagged on this. Ben, thank you for being with us. I just would like to conclude with this. Ben, thank you so much for being with us. Chaverim, those of you who've been watching us and been blessed, couple of things. If you are blessed by this, consider to take, not just listen to us with a popcorn and a Bible, but take action. Now it's the time for your ascension. Look for opportunity to fulfill mitzvot, to help others. To your neighbor, to do those mitzvot. It will bless your ascension. Keep us in prayer. We are ascending as a ministry, but we need your physical help to help us ascend also. So if you're blessed by the shiurim, your support will mean the world to the kingdom. As we continue the work, we have right now a project coming out in Portuguese, in German, in Indonesian, in Sinhala, that's the language in Sri Lanka. We have a couple of other ones, French. All of those projects about to come live. We need your support. We need your partnership as the Lord leads you. Continue to support. You can check us out, Ahavat Ammi. If you're interested in the Congress, streaming it, also let us know. It's happening May 29, May 30, May 31st. May 30, May 31st, June 1 through 30. We're available for a small fee for you to live stream. You can reach out to us. God bless you, and let us ascend upwards. That's the word for this Shabbat. Kol tuv v'leitraot, chaverim.